In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at the time trial starter map. For this game, we'll be using the Arcade City theme pack. Here is an example of our finished time trial game. Here is the template that you start with. First thing we're going to want to do is to configure our hotbar with the various voxels and meshes that we'll need to build this level. Our voxels will come in the form of our skyscrapers and cinder block. Feel free to browse other Arcade City meshes using the Arcade City tag filter. Now that we have our hotbar set up, let's paint the base to be more appropriate to our scene. Using the shape tool with the cube and the paint operation, drag a brush that surrounds the entire grass base. Once we're happy that the base is covered, click the Apply button to apply that operation. Now let's move on to building our skyscrapers. Using the same tool, but this time the Add operation, select one of your skyscrapers from your hotbar, drag out your base and ensure that we have a complete edge with no half windows. Once we're satisfied, drag that up to build our skyscraper. Again, once we're happy, either click Enter or the Apply button. Now with cinder block selected, drag out a roof area on top of the skyscraper and apply that. Next, let's select our other skyscraper material and do exactly the same again, varying the height from the first one. Once we're happy with our two skyscrapers, it's time to extract them from the terrain. Using the Volume Select tool, define a brush that completely surrounds one of your skyscrapers. Click the Extract operation, and this will separate it from the base, allowing us to perform operations on it like any other entity in the game. First, let's rename it, and then in our world tree we can find it, right-click and duplicate. Once duplicated, we can reposition an exact copy of our skyscraper and repeat that process until we've placed several of these darker skyscrapers around the level. Once satisfied, repeat this process for our other skyscraper. Whilst duplicating and repositioning this skyscraper, it'll be good to make sure that we place two next to each other to provide a large roof area which will form the base for our speed boost part of the level. Once we're happy with the position of our skyscrapers, it's time to reposition our checkpoints. First, let's move the start position to one corner of the map. Then, let's reposition the end to be next to this corner. At this point, it's worth making sure that the end skyscraper is higher or lower than the start skyscraper, and this will prevent players from travelling the wrong direction around the level. We also have a midway checkpoint, which will allow the player to respawn here rather than at the start should they fall off the level, so position this somewhere halfway around the course. Now let's update our checkpoints to look slightly more appropriate to the level. So if we select it from the drop down at the top of the world tree and go to our voxel library and search for checkered, using the pen and paint operation, let's paint the yellow base to look more like a checkered flag. Now when we return to the world tree, we can see that each of our checkpoints is automatically updated with the latest changes. Now it's time to download the extra assets that we need, including our jump pad and speed boosts. If we search for the tag Crayta and browse the store until we find speed boost template and jump pad template, these templates will now be available in our library under the template section. So first, let's configure one of our jump pads. Place one on a rooftop on the start or near the start. Then move to your jump pad and select the trigger box. Each jump pad comes with a velocity of which the player will be launched. In order to test this, we'll need to enter preview mode. But before that, let's reposition the spawn point to our start rooftop, so when we start the game, the player spawns in the right place. Once we're happy with the position, either press F5 or the play button at the top to enter preview mode. Now as we can see, this jump pad isn't strong enough and won't launch the player across the gap onto the other rooftop. So let's return to that jump pad, click into the trigger box, and update the velocity to a higher number. Now let's preview the game again and try again. Repeat this step until you've found a decent velocity that will propel your player far enough across to the extra rooftops. Once we're happy, return to your jump pad, rename it, and click Copy to Template. Now, any jump pads that we place will start with this velocity, which should be more appropriate for our level. Go ahead and place a few more around the level now. Once you're satisfied that players should be able to make it around the level, preview again and let's test that. Once we're satisfied that the players can traverse the entire course, let's move on to configuring our speed pads. If we return to our template section of the asset library and place a speed boost pad on the level. We can see here that we don't have a sound assigned to our template. So if we open up the sound list and search for retro, and pick a sound that's appropriate. From here we can also change the duration of the speed boost. From here we can also update the multiplier that the player will be boosted by. For this to work we also need some additional scripts from the store. So if we return to the store, search for the tag Crayta and look for player speed script, we'll see that a new script appears in our script section of the library. This script needs attaching to our player. So we search for the player in the drop down at the top of the world tree, go to Actor, Add Script, and select our new script. Now when we preview, we should see that our speed boost will launch the player much faster across the rooftops. And note that this velocity is carried into the jump pad. We might need to adjust this jump pad specifically to ensure that the player isn't thrown too far now. Once we're happy that the jump pads are set up and the speed boosts are ready, it's time to decorate our level. As mentioned before, feel free to explore the asset library using the tag Arcade City to have a look at the variety of meshes available for this. Think of ways that you can guide the player across the level and prevent them from taking shortcuts, or maybe even add some shortcuts and open new ways across the level for them. Okay, once we're happy that the level has been decorated, it's time to update our world settings. If we uncheck Override and Editor and change the start time to be midnight, we should see the level get much darker. Now let's add some fog. If we adjust our distance and fall off and intensity and give the fog a colour, something like a nice yellow. Then change the colour grading to super colour to really bring out the lighting. And change our depth Z of the depth plane to 200 to ensure that if players fall off the building, their character is killed and they are reset on the course. Now it's time for a final preview. At this point, it'll be worth checking that all of your meshes are out of the way of the players and that they're able to navigate the course. and also that all our jump pads allow players to get across the course as expected. And there we have it, a completed time trial from our starter map.